Hello and welcome to our Rethinking the Approach to Digital Containment on-Demand webinar. If you have any questions during or after this session, please do not hesitate to reach out to our team. I'm now going to go ahead and hand things over to our first speaker, Mike Vermillion. Mike?
Yeah, thanks so much. Why don't we begin with the challenge? I want to thank everybody for joining us today on this important topic. And what we want to cover is essentially addressing this question. For the most part, brands are not achieving their digital self-service goals. So we want to talk about how brands can improve adoption of and also retention within the digital channels for self-service. So that's what we're talking about today. So with me today, by the way, I'm Michael Vermillion, and I'm the Vice President and General Manager of our Insurance and Healthcare Intelligence practice here at JD Power. With me today, I've got a special guest, Breanne Armstrong, who's a Director in our Insurance Intelligence practice here at JD Power. Breanne, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So what we plan to cover is just a level set on the current state of digital adoption. And then we want to introduce a new framework for thinking about the approach. And then we'll move to just looking at some of the best practices from top performers to see what we can learn there. And then we'll finish up the conversation with some key takeaways. Before we dive into it, just want to start with some definitions in terms of digital adoption. And we'd mentioned that the title of this is about digital containment, but we'll use digital retention and digital containment interchangeably here today. For digital adoption, the way we're defining that is that digital, and by digital we mean the website or the app, is the first channel of choice when engaging with the brand. This is on the part of the consumer to complete a task, solve a problem, or get a question answered. So first channel of choice, that's how we're defining digital adoption. For digital retention is simply they return to a digital channel, again, the website or the app, after initially contacting using that same channel. So that's how we're defining retention. So first idea that we want to cover is this idea that digital adoption is important. And we have some examples of what we're talking about here. So when we look at the research here at JD Power around digital and the use of digital, one example is that we know that there's a strong appetite for digital on the part of consumers. So if it's there and it works well, they actually want to use it. So they're expecting to interact with you digitally, and in many cases, they even prefer digital when it works well. So just as an example from our utility study, the percent of customers who are using the mobile app to answer a question jumped dramatically from 22 to 23, from 38% to 56%. So there's an appetite for digital. Digital adoption and digital self-service has amazing promise for cost savings. We're pulling this example from a company called Klarna, which introduced an AI assistant. And pretty quickly, when they looked at the volume of questions that the AI assistant was handling, it was equivalent to 700 full-time agents, which is in dollars is about $40 million of annual savings. So this is just one example. There's many of these where moving interactions to digital can deliver tremendous cost savings, and it frees up resources to invest back into CX. And finally, there's a correlation between digital adoption and loyalty and even advocacy. So this is another data point, this time from our digital claim study from the insurance practice. We're looking at this question, was digital claim reporting, estimation, and settlement very easy? And if you check the very easy box on all three of those, we see a couple things. One is that satisfaction jumps dramatically from 799 to 948. But also on the question of loyalty, definitely will renew, goes from 41% to 86%. So there's a strong data point that connects the dots between a good digital experience and loyalty and advocacy and satisfaction. Breanne, just wanted to see if you had any thoughts on the importance of digital adoption.
Yeah, Mike, we see very similar results that you have here in our auto insurance study. We see that the intent to renew, definitely will renew, is higher among those who have interacted with the digital channel, so mobile app, website, chat, within the last 12 months. It's much higher likelihood to renew than those who haven't interacted at all. So it definitely has some impact on keeping customers happy and with that insurer.
Okay, so digital adoption is important, but what we're also finding in our research here at JD Power is that digital adoption is lagging, so it's not where we want it to be. Just a couple of data points. One way we measure this is we're looking at first channel of choice, and this is from our cross-industry customer experience study that we published last year. And when we compare first channel choice between digital and non-digital, even though apps and websites are everywhere, the digital channels, meaning website and app, are only the first channel choice 36% of the time. So that means there's still 64% of consumers out there who are not choosing digital as their first channel. Another data point, we just continue to see poor performance across both websites and apps across industries. So another data point from our cross-industry study that we published last year, when we asked the question around the website and whether it was visually appealing and easy to navigate, the percent of consumers who strongly agreed with both of those statements, or actually either of those statements, was only 33% for the visually appealing question and 40% on easy to navigate. So consumers are telling us that websites are ugly and not easy to navigate. And just one more data point, this time from the insurance practice again. We're actually seeing year-over-year declines in satisfaction. We saw that in our claims digital experience study, our insurance digital experience study, and around digital first notice of loss. So what's happening here isn't necessarily that the performance is declining, but satisfaction is experienced in the context of expectations. And so what's likely happening is that expectations are rising faster than the experience is performing. And so we're seeing that come out and impacting satisfaction. So Breanne, just wanted to get your thoughts here in terms of first channel of choice and performance and satisfaction when it comes to digital adoption.
Yes, thanks, Mike. We see satisfaction drop pretty significantly if a customer has to abandon their first channel, right? So channel hopping is very undesirable form of interaction, right? So within our auto insurance study, if you can keep people within that same channel, especially digital channel, satisfaction is a lot higher. The poor performance piece is really interesting because one of our findings around website in particular is how much the website structure, the clarity, how easy it is to navigate, how much it can impact trust. So there's a connection there. So we see individuals who've gone on the website, if they rate the clarity of the information lower, timeliness of resolving the issue, or ease of navigating the website lower, any one of those causes a huge drop in trust for the carrier. We're talking about over 200 points of a decline, right? So just having that an easy to use, functional, nice looking, visually appealing website has a big impact on how your customers view you, as a carrier, and how much trust they can put into you.
So one more data point on the current state. We took a look at digital adoption, which is the x-axis here, and digital containment or retention, which is the y-axis, and just did a scatter plot for those two metrics for the insurance carriers in the property and casualty industry. And what we find is a couple things. One, the top performers, it's really only a handful that are above the median for both metrics in terms of both adoption and containment. The second thing to point out is that there's a big opportunity set up and to the right. Let's call that the opportunity frontier. So there's plenty of room for improvement for the entire industry, but still even plenty of room for improvement for even the top performers. So again, we just aren't where we think we should be at this point in 2024 when it comes to digital self-service. So what we want to do next is start addressing the question of why is that?
Yeah, what we see here is that customers are looking to do more things online than ever before. So that does make it a little bit more difficult for carriers to essentially, keep the customer within the channel, especially if they don't have the necessary tools or it's not easy to complete a task. One thing we've seen recently with the auto insurance study is an increase in the percentage of people who are going online to basically do their auto policy renewal, right? So if the online tools aren't set up for that, it's not easy to do online, then they end up channel hopping, right? So you're not able to contain them. So, you may be able to drive them online, but if you can't keep them online to finish the task, then ultimately it's, for naught.
So what's happening? How can brands achieve digital self-service goals? So our thinking is that we really need to turn the current framework on its head. So what is the current framework? What we see oftentimes is that many companies start with asking the question, what is our digital transformation strategy? So we go out and hire a chief digital officer, put together a digital transformation strategy that gets rolled out to the organization, and then that begins to shape the digital experience for customers. And then the question of what is our rate of digital adoption is almost an afterthought. It's almost like, okay, we came up with the strategy, we rolled it out, we're executing against it. By the way, what do customers think? Is it actually working or not? So what if we took this model and flipped it upside down and actually started with the question, what needs to be true for digital adoption? And by answering that, then that's going to shape the digital experience for customers. And finally, that will inform the approach to digital transformation. So instead of starting with a strategy, our recommendation is to start with the customers and just answer this question, what needs to be true for digital adoption? So how do you answer that question? So to get at this, you really need to understand the critical success factors for adoption and retention. So let's look at adoption first. What are the critical success factors for digital adoption? This is not a comprehensive list, but some things to consider, some questions to ask yourself. So it begins with awareness. So do your customers even know that they have digital channel options? It begins also with the design. Is the design customer-centric? Are the digital channels visually appealing? We know that works if they are. And then even to taking it to another level, are the channels designed with the customer experience in mind? Another question to ask is around your value proposition. So did you actually take the time to map out the value propositions for the different journeys you're expecting your customers to take on the digital channels? Is the value proposition actually meeting the customer needs and what they're trying to achieve? And then to the next level, is the value proposition compelling? Is it personalized? A couple of other critical success factors for digital adoption would be easy to find. So is it easy to find your app? Is it easy to download? Is it easy to get started and to try? So again, not a comprehensive list, but just some examples of some of the critical success factors for digital adoption. Let's look at retention now. On the retention side, the questions are a little bit different, especially when it comes to the critical success factors. A big one is around customer success. So are we meeting the customer intent for each journey and key moment of truth? So are we setting them up for success? If we are, then the next question is, are they satisfied with that experience? And again, satisfaction is delivering an experience that meets or exceeds expectations. And then finally, another critical success factor for retention or containment is reinforcing that value proposition in every contact with the customer. So anytime you're communicating with the customer, are you reinforcing the value proposition for the digital self-service? Breanne, any thoughts here in terms of how you answer the question of what needs to be true for digital adoption and digital retention and these critical success factors?
Yeah, I really think it's a mix of understanding preference and current usage too, right? And how those intersect, because sometimes we don't always see those match up. So I think understanding where kind of the preferences, where the way customers want to head with their interactions, but then not, discounting the fact of what people are currently doing too. So I think figuring that out is a good step in this case.
So we're gonna transition now to a conversation around best practices. So at JD Power, we publish like 150 studies a year covering something like 1,700 brands, and so we see the good, the bad, and the ugly across many industries, and especially on the digital side of things. So we have studied the top performers. We've studied how they get there. And we just want to share some of the patterns and practices that we see across this group. So best practice number one is to have a playbook for improvement. And there's different ways to do this. A standard playbook that we use here at JD Power when we're working on improvement projects is number one, starting with understanding customer expectations. So again, putting the customer at the center and understanding what they expect. And then from there, once you understand the expectations, measuring your performance against those expectations. So you understand where your strengths are and potential gaps and therefore opportunities. To make this even better and more informative, it's a good idea to benchmark your performance against your peers within your industry. But also with top performers outside of your industry. So remember, customer expectations, especially in digital, are being set by their best experience anywhere. And so when it comes to digital channels, that's going to be brands like Amazon and Zappos and Apple. So that's kind of what you're up against when it comes to expectations. And then finally, coming out of that analysis, you'll have identified a set of opportunities. You'll want to prioritize those opportunities based on impact, but also on feasibility, and then just pick a couple to really focus on, and that's what moves the needle the fastest, and that's from our experience. Next best practice is knowing that not all things are created equal when it comes to digital self-service, especially the tasks, and looking at tasks through the lens of complexity. So what we find is that a lot of brands actually have pretty good traction when it comes to digital adoption for low complexity or low touch point tasks. So things like making a payment or ordering a proof of insurance card. And then as the tasks become more complex and have higher touch points, the rate of adoption goes down. And again, we're showing adoption here in the green bars for the website and the app. So a kind of a smart way to do this is to not try to boil the ocean. Start with the lower complexity, lower touch point tasks first, solve for that, and then once you get higher adoption there, then move on in terms of task complexity. Breanne, I know we see this in the auto insurance study as well, right? In terms of task complexity and adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. We see customers tending to want to do those less complex, quicker tasks via self-service, while something that requires a little bit more feedback, maybe something where customers might have more questions, tends to be a more high touch point, and they want to speak with someone. But we have seen some of these higher touch point interaction types increase for digital, like policy coverage information. We see more people looking to go to online chat to get answers. So I think sometimes the preference might not match the capabilities yet, right? So, once those capabilities are better, then maybe this will look a little different. So,
okay, best practice number 3, understanding and addressing customer intent. So we see a lot of brands miss on customer intent. They set a goal for containment, and they kind of force everybody into the digital self-service channels because they're trying to meet that containment goal, but they're not stopping to ask the question, are we actually setting our customers up for success? So remember, customer intent would be things like they're coming to your digital self-service channels for a reason. They're trying to complete a task, trying to solve a problem, they're looking for information. And so for every task or journey, the question that you need to ask for your digital channels would be, number 1, do you actually understand and know what the customer's intent is? And then, do you know the digital channel's ability to actually meet that intent? So if we send a customer down that channel, will they be successful? And so by answering those 2 questions, then we can actually answer the question, are we setting our customers up for success or failure? And by segmenting this way and really understanding the answer to those 2 questions for every task and journey, you'll do a better job of not only getting adoption, but also retaining your customers within the channels. Because what it's going to do is going to highlight where, number 1, you'll have a better understanding of why your customers are coming to the digital channels, what they're trying to do. But number 2, it's going to highlight where you're falling short in terms of the capabilities of the channels. So, Breanne, do we any examples here, or do we see this in the studies that you cover?
Going back to kind of the point that I made on the previous slide around individuals having kind of a preference for more complex tasks, understanding, what customers are trying to accomplish can really help, better tailor their experience here. And so as, customers want to do more online and there's more digital adoption, it's really critical to understand, what customers want to accomplish and really to, make that experience seamless too, right? So if all the digital channels, right? So not just app or website. So, that will help, I think, set the customer up for success, especially if they do want to interact in more than one way digitally.
Okay, so this is the best practice number 4 is around having a solid value proposition for each task or journey. So a little bit similar to number 3 around intent. Value proposition, one way to approach this is using something called the value proposition canvas, which we're showing here, which is where you take the time to, number 1, really understand your customers in terms of the jobs they're trying to get done. But beyond that, how are the customers actually going to measure the success of a job well done? So what are they gaining from interacting with the digital channel, and then also understanding any pain points. So what's annoying your customers while trying to get the job done? So that's really about understanding the customer. On the other side, understand in terms of your products and services, which in this case are the digital self-service channels, understanding how those channels are gain creators. That is, how are they adding value to the customer experience and delivering what they're trying to achieve. And then another way to add value would be to relieve pain. How is the digital channel perhaps saving time or making things more efficient for the customer? So top performers will have a value proposition mapped out for each of the major tasks or journeys so that they understand if they've got a good fit between what the digital channel is designed to do and what the customers are trying to get done. Best practice number 5 is understanding your organization's digital readiness. So there's a digital readiness on the part of an organization is a big topic. There's a lot of different aspects of this. One aspect of digital readiness is asking the question of whether or not your organization consists of digital advocates or not. And if you want your customers to adopt and stay within your digital self-service channels, one of the keys to success is to make sure that your organization is also on board. And so a way to think about the advocacy journey is that we all kind of begin as non-believers, so we're pre-advocacy state, so that's number 1. And then we'll begin to consider whether we want to be advocates for digital channels or not within the organization. And then as we work with customers and they start to experience the digital channels, we'll begin evaluating that experience alongside our customers. And eventually you'll get to a key moment of truth. So we're working with a customer and they went to a digital channel to get some information or to complete a task or to get a question answered, solve a problem. And one of two things is going to happen. Either it works, and if it works, then we become bigger believers and move down that journey towards becoming digital advocates within the organization. If it doesn't work, we're going to be hesitant to send our customers down those digital channels for self-service because we have experience where we know our customers had a bad experience doing that, and we want to protect our customers, and so we're not going to become digital advocates. So again, digital advocacy, one aspect of digital readiness, but understanding where your organization is a key question, and being thoughtful and planning around moving the organization towards digital readiness and becoming digital advocates is an important part of the equation here. I just want to finish up with the business case for improving digital self-service. We talked at the beginning about how important digital self-service is. If you can improve the digital self-service channels, you're going to accomplish a couple things in terms of your goals, realizing cost savings, lower attrition, revenue growth from advocacy, greater share of wallet, so a bunch of financial metrics. But another goal, like we just talked about, is advocacy across the organization. So getting buy-in from your key stakeholders, important that your team members understand the customer expectations for the digital experience, but also that they need to understand their role in digital adoption. And if you can make that happen, then the organization will become advocates for digital. And then finally, engage digital customers. So engaged digital customers mean that they'll be more satisfied, they'll have a deeper level of trust with your brand, and higher loyalty and advocacy. So those are kind of the 3 key components of the return on investment or business case for investing in improving digital self-service. So let's wrap up the key takeaways. So at the beginning, we talked about the fact that digital adoption and retention are important, but they're also lagging. And then we moved to this idea of a new framework that we need to solve for what needs to be true for adoption and retention to achieve our digital self-service goals. Then we looked at some of the best practices from top performers that offer a potential roadmap for improvement. And then we finished up with the fact that there is a very strong business case for improving adoption and retention for digital self-service. So our call to action coming out of this webinar would be just getting started with an honest internal conversation. And so some of the questions you can ask at your next meeting would be things like, are we meeting our digital self-service goals? Have we actually solved for what needs to be true for digital adoption and retention? And what can we learn from best practices? So we want to thank again everybody for joining the webinar today. A really super important topic. We're very passionate about it. Happy to have further conversations with you. And at this point, we're going to turn it back to the host for next steps.
Yep, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Breanne. And thank you for everyone today for tuning in. If you are interested in learning more about this topic, or if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to the team members on this slide. You can also find more information on our website and join our mailing list for more content like this. We look forward to connecting with you soon. Thanks.